Yo, Sketty here. Let's have a chat about sound design, why you might be struggling with it, and what we can do about that. I know the title to this video might seem a little bit clickbaity, but this is to get the attention of people who are really struggling, tearing their hair out, making sounds that just don't sound good, they don't feel like they're getting anywhere with sound design, or people who are wanting to get into sound design but have no idea where to begin. Before we get into the video, a quick disclaimer. This is not a quick fix guide, or for those that just want to follow musical trends, or don't want to put the hard work and time into learning sound design. If you only want to use presets and compose music, that is totally cool and more power to you, but this video is not for you. This is for those that feel stuck but really want to push themselves to get better at sound design. Let's get into it. So while I was planning this video out, I was thinking to myself, what really qualifies me to give you advice about sound design? So here's a little bit about me. I've been making music for around 26 years, and around 2008, while I was at university, I really started to get into my sound design journey. So for around the last 15 years, I've been looking into the art of synthesis and how to make sounds across many different genres. I have worked with many sample pack labels and now run my own label, Exit Sounds. So the intention of this video is not for you to take it as a finger-pointing lecture, but someone giving advice from all of the things they've learned, the mistakes they've made across their journey, and the things that they're continuing to learn as well, so you can also become a better sound designer. So you want to be a sound designer. Well, what is sound design? This can be defined as using tools such as synthesis, field and live recordings to create and manipulate audio in a way that emulates real-world sounds or creates something completely brand new. In the film world, this can be referred to as diegetic and non-diegetic sounds. So I'm mainly going to focus on sound design using synthesis in this video, but the advice and philosophies within can be applied to a wide range of musical principles and your music making journey. Regardless of what your synth of choice is, firstly get yourself acquainted with the fundamental waveforms: sine wave, triangle wave, sawtooth and square wave. Familiarize yourself with how these waveforms sound, what their tone is like. See if you can hear those tones in tunes that you enjoy. This will start to help train your ear to pick out nuances in sound design. Start to learn what each tool available in a synth does. For example, this is an envelope affecting the loudness of a sawtooth. Here is an LFO attached to a filter. And an LFO affecting the pitch width of a 7-voice unison. Once you get to grips with the fundamentals, you can start looking at more advanced tools like FM, ring modulation, modulators affecting other modulators, so then you can start creating even more complex sounds into the more super complex sounds out there. Now you're going to want to watch a lot of tutorials about techniques and what things do in a synthesizer. You've probably started watching tutorials about how to create your favourite sounds from your favourite songs. This is great and you will learn loads about how different elements of the synth interact with each other. But here's the rub. If you're purely just copying each setting and skipping through the tutorial for the next setting, then you are pretty much learning nothing about how a sound is made. You will start to get frustrated because obviously that knowledge isn't going in. You're going to start sounding the same as everyone else with very little understanding of why a synth preset sounds the way it does. So spend time listening to each part of the sound you're recreating from the tutorial you're watching. Learn how each element interacts with each other from the beginning all the way through the process right until the end. Here is an example. Just by changing the position of the filter from before the distortion to after the distortion, it creates a hugely different sound. The filter before the distortion causes a really strong harmonic resonance, which is then further accentuated by the reverb. Putting the filter after the distortion causes the sound to be a lot more muted and a lot less aggressive than before. So you have a goal of having legendary sound design skills, but right now you just seem to be floundering in a sea of mediocrity. With the world and trends moving so fast now, it can be really tempting to run a million miles an hour learning and doing things. And in this case, becoming a great sound designer as quickly as you possibly can. But let's face it, you're going to suck for a while.
That's what she said.
And that is totally okay. There is nothing wrong with that. That is part of the journey. And in a lot of ways, the journey is just as important as the goal that you're aiming for. As a lecturer, I used to use this analogy with my students a lot. I'd ask them, would you want to win the lottery and get money instantly, or work really hard for it and get that money over time? Now, usually most times the students would answer, I'd want to win the lottery. And of course, having money super quickly is a fun thing. On the surface, that seems really cool. But here's the thing, most people will blow through that money really, really quickly on stupid and frivolous things that don't mean anything and have nothing left to show for it afterwards. Whereas working really hard to earn that money, along the way you're going to gain a lot of skills, you're going to gain purpose in what you're doing, and obviously you're going to earn a lot of money as well. But this is the thing, it will take more time. So in a way, I'm talking about ditching the instant gratification mentality that this world lives by now. It is shallow, fleeting, and vapid, and it will leave you feeling very frustrated and hollow. Whereas really being prepared to be bad at something for a while, until you eventually get really good at that thing, in this case sound design, takes a lot of character, but is so much more worthwhile in the long term. A great quote from Dave Grohl goes as follows: "It's destroying the next generation of musicians. Musicians should go to a yard sale and buy an old drum set and get in their garage and they just suck, and get their friends to come in and they'll suck too. And they'll start playing and they'll have the best time they've ever had in their lives. And then all of a sudden they'll become Nirvana, because that's exactly what happened with Nirvana. Just a bunch of guys that had some old instruments and they got together and started playing some noisy music, and they became the biggest band in the world." If we apply this to the subject of sound design, then like I said earlier, yeah, you're going to be bad at this for quite a while. But if you commit to the journey, along the way you're going to make so many cool sounds and you're going to learn so many things as well. Another good thing to think about is the largely misquoted 10,000 hour rule from Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers, The Story of Success. To become a chess grandmaster also seems to take about 10 years. Only the legendary Bobby Fischer got to that elite level in less than that amount of time. It took him 9 years. And what's 10 years? Well, it's roughly how long it takes to put in 10,000 hours of hard practice. 10,000 hours is the magic number of greatness. Now, this is mainly talking about the best of the best of the best, the outliers. But what if you're not the best of the best? Well, you can still become very, very, very good at sound design with enough time. So let's half that to 5,000 hours, spread over 5 years. Imagine how much better you will be at sound design then compared to now. With that being said, you should pace yourself with sound design. Start simple and get more complex over time. I remember some of my first releases. I thought they were the best sounds I would ever make, but really it was super complex noise. I was biting off more than I could chew. Here is a tune from way back in 2013. The basses are very blown out and lacking any smooth refinement. Compare that to what I'm working on for my latest album, the difference is significant. You are going to make a lot of mistakes on this journey, and that's where you're going to learn the most things. Like George Bernard Shaw says, the man who has never made a mistake will never make anything else. So don't be afraid of making mistakes. And also, like exercise, allow yourself time to let it all sink in. All these techniques that you're learning, let your brain rest. Get outside for an hour in nature, whatever it is you want to do away from sound design, and then come back to it. Remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Now for a little bit more tougher advice. Don't complain if you're not putting the time in. I mean, you can complain, but it'll just sound very redundant. If you found yourself in your free time mainly just playing games or scrolling social media instead of learning a new skill, in this case sound design, then you don't really have the right to complain. Schedule time to focus on sound design. Even if it's just 10 minutes a day, that's a start. In fact, let's do the math on that. We take 10 minutes a day by 7 days a week. That's already over an hour and 10 minutes. We take that into a month, we're around 5 hours already, just from 10 minutes a day. If you remember the mountain image earlier in the video, well, this is how you change staring up at a seemingly impossible goal to making it more into an easy walk, learning skills as you go along. You're not trying to climb the mountain in one leap, but instead getting to the top in small steps, acquiring as many skills as you can, and that will be a lot more successful as well. By the way, that 10 minutes a day turns into 60 hours a year. If you scale that even higher, you can see how such a small amount of time each day can snowball. Obviously, you've got to do it regularly though. Speaking of things that might distract you, instead use them as a reward after the time that you've spent doing sound design. You could gamify this process. if it initially feels like a chore because of the steep learning curve. Say after an hour's sound design, reward yourself with 10 minutes doing whatever it is you enjoy to relax. Learning any new skill or becoming more proficient and better at a skill that you are learning is tough. It will be difficult a lot of the time, but that isn't an excuse to give up. Losers give up, and I'm pretty sure you don't want to be a loser. It's always good to reflect on your progress. Reflect on that each week. Keep saving each sound that you make and listen back to them each week to see how you've progressed. You will start to notice the difference, and that will make this journey so much more worthwhile when you can hear where you came from to where you are now. As a final note on excuses, yes, the learning curve of getting into sound design is incredibly steep, but that is the same for almost everyone. So don't whine about that. Instead, realize that we live in an age where we have access to tutorials about almost anything instantly. I remember struggling on my own for years learning music as I didn't have access to the internet, so I just had to figure it out on my own or ask a lecturer when we had a spare minute between lessons. The tools to learn are at your fingertips and massively abundant now, so use them. So lastly, have fun and experiment. When you are past the initial learning curve of sound design, don't be afraid to try weird routings or sound choices in your synthesis. Try and break the synth and see what kind of crazy sounds you get out of it. Some of my favourite sounds I've made have been through happy accidents. I was trying to do one thing, but I ended up with a really cool sound that was unexpected, and I ended up just going in that direction with it. So be prepared to go where the journey takes you, rather than always forcing the path you want to be on. Some of the best discoveries can be found in the path less travelled. If you find yourself getting frustrated with sound design and not having fun, then take a break to reset. Remember though, a bit of frustration is always good because this is a difficult subject to learn, so don't run away as it starts to get difficult. But if you find yourself going around in circles for too long, then it's good to take a break, reset, and then come back fresh. Anyway, these are some of the things I've found useful on my sound design journey and advice I found useful to follow. I want to open the floor to you guys. What helps you on the journey of sound design? How do you keep going when you find things really difficult and you're just not making sounds that you like? And any other things that you'd like to leave in the comments as well. As an aside, I stream live on Twitch where we have lots of fun making music. We do challenges, I do feedback for people and their tunes, and we talk about lots of things to do in music production. The link to that's in the description. Anyway, thanks so much for sticking around till the end of this video. If you found the advice in this video useful, I'd love it if you give it a like. If you're new here, then hit that subscribe button so you get to see more of my videos in the future. And if you hated this video, well, thanks for sticking around and giving the video a view. Until next time, guys, as always, God bless and goodbye.